Hey guys, Pete here. Today I have a new dark video. This is an idea that's been requested in the comments of my season 3 videos, and it kind of blew me away when I put it all together. People have been asking about the path of the different objects through the timeline, so today I'm going to detail one of them, the St. Christopher Pendant. Its path in season 2 was something I'd already detailed in my notes when I made the video for Jonas's journey through time. As I was watching season 3, I almost dropped the idea because it gets a lot more complicated, but then I realized it actually presents an opportunity. People have been posing a lot of questions about the split reality. The pendant travels through them and ends up in different places, so by following the St. Christopher's path, it might actually help clear things up. A really quick spoiler warning. I'm going to be talking about things that happen throughout the Netflix series Dark. And if you haven't completed all 3 seasons, then this video won't be for you. Feel free to come back after you finish the series though, because believe me, you'll have questions. St. Christopher is the patron saint of travelers. According to Christian legend, he earned that title by carrying a child across the river. He didn't know it at the time, but the child revealed himself as Christ when they got to the other side. This reinforced Christopher's faith, which later he was asked to renounce and he wouldn't, so he was beheaded, and thus he became a martyr. Dark's St. Christopher pendant depicts him carrying the Christ child on his shoulder. A fun fact you might have missed is that the church in Pendant is also called St. Christopher's, which is quite fitting for all the traveling that goes on there. What I find fascinating about this artifact is that it symbolizes the connection between Jonas and Martha. This is a connection that extends beyond the 2 teenagers we meet in season 1. The connection exists across multiple timelines, multiple worlds, and multiple versions of the characters. It's woven into the story in a way that feels like it's always been there, but in reality, it didn't play a part in the first season. Chronologically speaking, the pendant enters the story in 1954, and that's where we'll start. Egon Tiedemann gives it to Jonas Kahnwald, who's traveled back in time from 2020. These two have a hot affair going on, but things go cold quickly. Hannah finds out she's pregnant, and at this point, Egon still has a family at home. They split up, and she initially wants to have an abortion. Hannah goes to an abortion clinic where she meets a 12-year-old named Helena Albers. They strike up a conversation, and at the end of that, Hannah changes her mind. She decides to have the baby. Because the young girl mentioned liking the idea of St. Christopher, the idea of someone carrying us on our journey, someone watching over us, Hannah leaves the pendant behind for her. Helena keeps the pendant and wears it for the next 33 years. By the way, she's Katerina's mother, and the next time we see her wearing it is when her time-traveling daughter arrives at her place of work. Katerina traveled back in time looking for her son and her husband. She actually uses the fact that she knows about the pendant to get her mother to let her see Ulrich. She knows what it is and she brings it up, and of course her mother doesn't recognize her because she's 33 years older than the last time she saw her. Things go terribly wrong for Katerina from there. She hatches a plan to free her husband Ulrich that involves taking her mother's key card. That leads to a struggle where Katerina pulls the pendant from Helene's neck as she's being beaten to death. As her body is being dragged into the lake, the pendant is left behind on the shore. 32 years later, Katerina's children, Magnus and Martha, are hanging out at the lake with their friends. Martha has a crush on Jonas, and while they're talking on the beach, they find the pendant in the sand. Jonas leaves abruptly just after that, leaving the pendant with Martha. But because this is the day before his father's suicide, there are 2 versions of Jonas at the lake. The slightly older version has just traveled back from 1921 to try to stop his father from taking his own life, which will also erase his existence. He takes this opportunity to see Martha one last time. They have their first kiss just after he tells her for the first time, "You and I are perfect for each other. Never believe anything else." Later that night, Martha gives the pendant, which she's put on a string, back to the younger version of Jonas. Then they have sex for the first time. It's kind of hilarious how this plays out since the older version swooped in at the beach and the kiss happened. Martha is following that feeling, but Jonas thinks she's making the first move. From there, the St. Christopher now has its meaning for Jonas, and things get a little more complicated from there. At the beginning of season 2, we see that Jonas has it in the bunker in 2053. I'm guessing that he recovered it from his house after being transported to the future from the 1980s. It's possible that he was carrying it with him, but we never saw it since that happened in season 1. Everything after that gets more complicated due to the fact that the realities split. Hopefully you've watched my previous season 3 videos where I explain the concept the show refers to as quantum entanglement. The idea is that Ava uses an exploit to split things into two realities that exist simultaneously. In the first, Jonas survives the apocalypse by running into the basement. This is his path to becoming Adam. In this reality, he keeps the pendant with him for the next 33 years as he lives in a post-apocalyptic Winden. This is the time where Claudia is stalling from stabilizing the God particle, and he's essentially stuck. Eventually, he travels back as the stranger and leaves the pendant on Martha's pillow. She thinks this is a sign that her Jonas has returned, and later goes to the Kahnwald house. While she's there, she runs into the stranger for the first time. He mentions the pendant in the process of getting her to realize who he is, and she winds up leaving it behind when Katerina shows up. So he gets the pendant back, and then as mentioned, this is the version of Jonas where he becomes Adam, and he keeps the pendant with him until he grows old. In the reality where Jonas is saved from the apocalypse by Martha, he takes the pendant with him, and this confuses things even more. Let me explain. Jonas, who travels to Martha's world, always gets shot there. He's always got the pendant when he goes there, and as he's dying, he gives the pendant to the youngest version of Martha, the one who's wearing the yellow raincoat. Her path then diverges though. In one outcome, she rescues Jonas and then leaves him in the cave. In that reality, she goes back to 1888 to give stranger Jonas the cesium, only to be imprisoned by Adam later in 2053. He takes the St. Christopher she's wearing in that reality before he kills her with the God particle. So the path of that pendant ends there. In the other reality, Martha never rescues Jonas. Bartosz intervenes and takes her back to Eva's. This is the version of Martha that grows old, and in this outcome, Adam never gets the chance to take the pendant back. She keeps it with her for the rest of her life. To recap things, one version of the pendant stays with Jonas as he grows old to become Adam. Due to Ava's quantum entanglement manipulation, another version comes into her possession. It's given to the youngest version of her though, so there's another copy created when the timeline is split. One stays with her until she grows old and becomes Eva, and the other is taken by Adam when he kills her. In that situation, Adam would then have two versions of the pendant. After meeting with Claudia, Adam changes things up again. He rescues Jonas from the apocalypse, creating a third reality. Jonas then rescues Martha from the apocalypse in her world, and if you think about it, both of them are now carrying a St. Christopher pendant when that happens. He has the one that he would keep until he grows old in that reality, and she has the one he gave her as he was dying in her world. So at the end of the day, there's basically 5 different pendants out there in the universe. Of course, things change dramatically when they do go to the origin world, but I think it's really cool how they place the pendant on its path in the story. The showrunner, Bo Odar, got one over on all of us last year when he posted the photo of Hannah wearing it. This made us all think that she would be the lady in the lake that Bartosz mentions while the teens are swimming. Having Hannah pass it off to Katerina's mom was an amazing twist, and ultimately the way it came to be on the beach in that scenario is much more tragic. The St. Christopher always shows up at emotionally charged moments. Hannah gets it just before she learns she's pregnant with Celia. Helena gets it just after she experiences something no 12-year-old should ever have to. Jonas and Martha first come into possession of it at the exact location where her mother was killed. They find it just as their ill-fated romance is about to really begin. And of course, Alt Martha first gets it just after Jonas is killed right in front of her. In a story where the characters are unable to let go, the pendant serves as a reminder for all that they've been through. I think it's brilliant that all the main versions of the characters that connected end up with the St. Christopher in their possession at the end. Adam and Eva both have at least one when they disappear together, as does Jonas and Martha in the origin world. And with that, I will leave you there. Let me know in the comments what you think. And had you realized just how crazy the pendant's path was? It's complicated, so let me know if you have any questions. I think the major thing to remember is that Yellow Raincoat Martha getting it is important since her path hasn't split yet. I'll be making a few other dark videos this week, so keep your questions coming. I've been keeping track and will probably be answering some of them this week. Please like this video if you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And thanks for watching. I will talk to you soon.